Hey, welcome to the stream. Hope you're all doing well today. Let me check the sound okay. Picture okay, yep. I guess we're good to go. Thanks for joining, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about email in WordPress in particular. I published a blog post not that long ago about WP mail being not broken in WordPress, and today a lot of it is going to be related to what I wrote in the blog post. So we'll talk about SMTP, what a mail user agent is, what a mail transfer agent is, how it all works together, why the vast majority of hosting providers don't support email like they probably should be supporting email, and what the common problems are and what the fixes are. And we'll probably do like a live performance test as well to compare what email option is going to be the best performance-wise. And yeah, and I guess we'll take it from there. We'll see what happens. And yeah, let me start a new sale project. Let me try and mute this. Okay. So we get a working vanilla WordPress site that we'll be playing around with. Again, this is going to be on DigitalOcean. By default, DigitalOcean blocks the default non-secure SMTP port 25. So any outgoing mail on port 25 is basically not going to work, but it's fine. We don't really need that. We'll look at some of the options around those kind of limitations by using an external SMTP server, and also we'll look at relaying mail locally. So while that's going on, let me, I guess, jump into the basics of what an email is, right, on the internet. So we have Bob, right? He's going to send an email to, I don't know, was it Sally? Maybe it's Sally. So Bob is sending this email using his computer, some software on his computer, or a web-based client such as Gmail or whatever, and this client is going to be called the MUA. So this is the mail user agent. This is the software that is used to compose and create the email. And what happens then is this software is going to communicate to a thing called MTA, which is a mail transfer agent. And this is another piece of software. Sometimes these two are combined, but this is basically another piece of software that figures out like what the email is, who is it addressed to, and the best way to get there. So Bob is composing an email for Sally. The MUA sends the MTA. Here's the message. It's from Bob. It's addressed to Sally on this particular email address. And then this MTA, through a series of a bunch of others, MTA, like this could be one network, like this could be, Bob's local like work network. Let's call it network, like private net. Private net. This is Bob's network. Then it leaves Bob's network and basically goes out to the internet. Right? We'll call this the internet, iNet. And through a series of other MTAs around the internet, depending on where the message is addressed to, whom the message is addressed to, travels through a bunch of other MTAs, and then eventually ends up in probably like some sort of MTA in Sally's network, and then ends up in Sally's MUA, which is Sally's emailing software. So this goes here, this goes here, and then Sally can read that address. And so the communication between all of these MTAs and MUAs is usually the SMTP protocol. And this is basically the language that the MUAs and MTAs all speak to one another. And this is a very simplified version of how email works. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, including authentication and signing, DKIM, SPF records, and all of those things, but we're not going to cover them in this stream. But just to give you an understanding that there are MUAs, which are user agents that compose and create emails, and then there are MTAs, which are mail transfer agents, which move these emails around to the final destination. Now in WordPress, let me create a new, how do I create a new slide? Oh. In WordPress, there is a function called WP Mail, and I wish I had a pencil right now that could draw. So there's a function called WP Mail, which is essentially a wrapper around a PHP library called PHP Mailer. It's a very popular open source library to create and send and craft and do a bunch of stuff around email in PHP. So WP Mail is a wrapper around that library. And with the default settings, this library defaults to just using the PHP's internal mail function. And this is an internal PHP function, PHP mail. Let's try and open it up. And underneath, this function is quite simple. Like, it doesn't really do anything except formatting the arguments, like who the message is to, the subject, the message, headers, and so on, and sending them to a piece of software called SendMail on the system. And SendMail is basically just a binary. It's just an executable on the hosting server, which accepts this string of headers and the email contents and information about the email, and does whatever it needs to do next with this email. So that's the default configuration. And the most common problem is that the default configuration sometimes doesn't work, or is rate limited, or is non-performant, or is very limited in the kind of emails that you can send. And this is understandable because most hosting providers will be very protective around their IP addresses and their network being used for spam and abuse and malicious activity and whatnot. So the recommended fix for those kind of problems is usually to use a third-party SMTP provider. And what that is it's a service like Mailgun, or there are a bunch of others like smtp.com. Amazon has its own called SES on Amazon Web Services. So there's Mailgun, smtp.com, like Sendinblue. I think MailChimp has one called Mandrill. I'm not sure if that still works. I think it does. So basically, these are what I like to call SMTP gateways. So what you do is you set up an account, and they will give you an SMTP address and credentials that they listen to. And then whenever you need to send email, transactional email, you just use those SMTP settings, either via a piece of software like the mail application on Mac, or Microsoft Outlook, or a PHP script. You'll just use those SMTP credentials and send the mail using their stack, their technology, and they will take care of queuing the email. They'll take care of delivering the email. They will take care of retrying delivery if maybe a recipient's inbox is full, or they will handle bounces for spam and for email addresses that don't exist and things like that. And so a lot of the reliability around email in general is solved by using a lot of these services rather than just sending emails from your own server, from your IP. And that is one of the problems that these SMTP plugins and solutions for WordPress strive to solve. And when I was playing around with Sail, because my end goal for Sail, for the CLI tool that I'm working on, was to create the most robust email system that users can work with on the DigitalOcean cloud. And my initial goal was to try and test various hosting providers to see what they're doing with email, and maybe run some performance tests about what happens if you queue, if you run, say, WP mail, like run it 1,000 times, right? What will happen then? And the problem I encountered is that almost all of them are just rate limiting whatever goes through WP mail by default. And again, by default, I mean that the call to the send mail binary on the system. So if we were to put this this diagram or this chart that we sketched out for MUAs and MTAs, right? WP mail in this respect would be an MUA, because WP mail here is just composing the email. It's just writing it. It's creating the message. It's attaching a recipient address to the message. It's attaching a subject to the message, and then the contents of that message to WP mail. But it's not actually doing anything about delivery of that email, because that is then handled by SendMail on the system by default. So SendMail here is the MTA. It's actually the first MTA in probably a chain of a chain of other MTAs until the email reaches the final destination MUA. And so what I found is that a lot of hosts, they're just limiting this part very aggressively. Some of them will inspect the email contents, and if it doesn't look like a default WordPress email, like a password recovery email or a new user registration email, they would just block it right here. So the email would never leave the network of the hosting provider. And then this would be the internet. And again, this makes total sense. And I don't have anything against inspecting emails and only allowing emails with 100% verified non-spam content, such as a password reset email, which we all know what it looks like because this is WordPress and it is open source. It is totally okay to block those emails because the hosting provider here is probably using their own either their own IP address, or if they're using a third-party mail delivery system, they're using their own account, which if they start, if their customers start abusing it, start spamming and sending viruses and whatnot, then they will get blocked or banned, or their emails will just end up being marked as spam because they're originating from their network. And That's fine. However, the vast majority of the web hosts are suggesting the use of SMTP plugins for WordPress to solve this problem. And an SMTP plugin, and you can find these on, you can go to WordPress.org plugins and just type in SMTP. There's like a bazillion different options. There are premium plugins, there are paid plugins, there are free and open source simple plugins. But what they all do is they would just modify, they would overwrite what WP Mail does by default. So WP Mail uses PHP Mailer, and PHP Mailer uses Mail. But then what an SMTP plugin will do is it will cause WP Mail to say use PHP Mailer, but then PHP Mailer would use SMTP and you know, try and send this email to a configured SMTP server such as Mailgun or smtp.com or a Gmail SMTP server. And so what this SMTP plugin essentially does, it transforms WP Mail from being an MUA to actually being the MTA, the first MTA, because it's going to speak SMTP and is going to speak directly to an external service. And this is a problem, and I'll try and demonstrate why this is a problem. So here I have initialized my my sale project. I have a URL. Let me open that. Let me log in. What was the password? Okay. So let's go to plugins, add new, and let's install whatever is first in the list. WP Mail SMTP by WP Forms. So install, activate. Okay. Other SMTP. We'll just use a manual mode of entering this SMTP. So this stuff, I have a Mailgun account that I'm gonna use. I think it's this. I think I have, yep, I have a domain. So I'm gonna go to, and I'll walk through setting this up from scratch with Sale and Postfix later. But meanwhile, I'll just grab the SMTP credentials here to try it out with WP Mail SMTP. Why is Slack sending me a notification? Thought I muted it. So just a sec. Okay, so SMTP credentials, the login is postmaster@saledemo.com. So this goes here. The SMTP password is, I don't know it, so I'm gonna reset it. SMTP password. And the SMTP host is smtp.mailgun.org. So this is the most simple setup, and all SMTP plugins, they will have the exact same fields for SMTP host, port, username and password. Skip, checking mailer config, skip, finish setup. Okay, there's an email test, and we can try and send an email test, and I have my Gmail in one of these browsers. Which one though? This one. Okay. WP mail SMTP automatic email test. So let me see if I can. If I can demo this. Never mind. So yeah, the email basically arrived. Oh, we can paste it here. Okay. Let's do this. So here's the email. It's in my inbox. There is something about this message maybe spoofed, because it does say that it is mailed by saledemo.com from. Oh well, the from address is set to my Gmail address, so I made a mistake, I guess, in here. Yeah. So here I should write the domain, the email address which Mailgun is configured to send from. So like hi@saledemo.com would be a better option. That way it doesn't look spoofed or anything like that. Anyway, now for doing like a small performance test, let me install the I don't know, let's try the debug bar plugin. Debug bar. And I'll probably need the extender as well. Actually, I don't know if I still need this, but either way, we'll try it out. So the debug bar. Okay, yeah, we have a profiler here. I don't know if there should be one on the debug bar remote requests, I think. Oh, debug bar remote requests. There it is. Okay. It's not going to show me any remote requests though, because it is not using WordPress's HTTP API to perform these requests. It is using like an fsoc open, and you can probably find it here in source SMTP, like fsoc open. Yep. So like fsoc open, or like a stream context create. So outside of WordPress APIs is just opening a socket on a specific port and speaking the SMTP language essentially. But we do have the profiler, so we have the total execution time here, which will help us identify whether something is slow or fast. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a quick small plugin in here. So I'm going to do WP content, mu plugins. Oh, I actually have it written already. Test SMTP. Yeah, I have it written. So this is the same one I used in like while testing this earlier. So what this does is on init. Let me make this a little larger, I think. Okay. On init, it's going to check the mail test query parameter, and if it's set, it's going to send an email. So I'm just calling WP mail here to myself with the subject of perf test and with the contents of I : and the counter value, and it's going to do it 20 times. Okay. And so again, this is configured to use the SMTP plugin. So let me go to the home. Let me go to this page. Let's see that the execution time for this particular page, me being logged in, visiting this page, is 25 milliseconds. So this is bare vanilla WordPress without doing any mailing. Now, if I do mail test equals 1, mail test equals 1, it doesn't look like it sent anything, to be honest. Oh, well, I didn't upload this, of course. Sail deploy all of WP content. I also don't really need that one, this plugin. Let me remove it. I don't really need it. It basically just sets the from name and email address for the WP email header, but we'll generate one of these later when we do use the sail blueprint to configure Postfix for WordPress. It'll generate one automatically. Okay, so it's deployed. Let me just go here to the plugins and quickly check. Oh crap, I overwrote. I have to install these plugins again. My bad. So the bug bar is still here, I think. Yes, the bug bar is still here. I can actually just sail WP plugin install the bug bar extender. I'll do the bug bar remove requests. What was the other one that I installed? The bug bar. Oh, WP mail SMTP. WP mail SMTP. Install. I don't know if I have to reconfigure it. Probably not. And now sail download. To make sure that I have all these new plugins in my local working copy. Yep, here they are. Plugins, the bug bar extender, remote requests. I don't need query monitor. WP mail SMTP. Okay. Let's just double check the settings. Yep, settings look correct. There's my mailgun credentials. Okay, now let's go here again. Let's go to the profiler, 24 milliseconds. Mail test equals 1. And yep, so it's spinning, which means it is doing something. And it'll take about 30 seconds because I already measured this earlier. So just to give you an idea, what it's doing right now is this SMTP plugin. Like, disregard this because this is no longer the case. We are using an SMTP plugin right now, which for every WP mail call, and we're calling it 20 times right now, it's doing open connection to smtp.mailgun.org or whatever it is. It is secure connection with TLS handshake. It is authenticate with SMTP credentials. Send email contents to SMTP server. And acknowledge that the SMTP server received the contents, and close connection, right? And I might have missed like one point probably, but anyway, like, this is all the things that WP Mail is doing right now 20 times in a row, just because I told it to send an email 20 times, to run WP Mail 20 times in a row. That is what it's doing 20 times. And now if we go to debug, there are a couple of additional queries, but like these are very minor compared to the profiler. See, this is 35 seconds, right? So the SMTP plugin is 35,000 milliseconds, which is 35 seconds to send 20 emails. Right? 35 seconds. Just think about that. And it's only 20 emails. And that is exactly, like this is exactly the reason why it's taking so long. And this is the reason why people are recommending not to use WordPress for newsletters or anything that has to do with mass emails. Like 20 isn't even a mass email. Like an average newsletter blast would be like, what, 500, 1,000 recipients? You know, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. And obviously the alternative is to use like a third-party newsletter software like MailChimp and stuff for the newsletter, for all the newsletter needs. But you know, newsletters is not the only use case for, you know, a high volume WP mail. What if you're running you know, a body press network which has a lot of members, and these members are getting notifications from your system, and like every time you want to send a notification, what is it, 20, 30, 35 seconds for 20 emails. That's more than 1 second for every single email that you want to send. So every notification is plus 1 second to your PHP execution time, just out of the blue, because you need to do all of this. Because the SMTP plugin is making WordPress be the MTA and not the MUA like it's supposed to. And that's not the only problem. Like, think about this. What in a typical scenario, right? What happens if the SMTP server is down, right? Mailgun can go down. smtp.com can go down. Your hosting service might just lose network access to that part of the internet. Like, these things happen. There can be packet loss. There can be network congestion. There can be a lot of different things causing packets not to be sent from one point in the network to another. And if this happens and you're trying to send an email, well, you're going to be lucky if this just times out in, you know, 3 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever the default is. Which would mean that your script is now 5 seconds slower, not 1, if you're sending 1 email. And it also means that the email is going to be lost. Just lost. It's not going to go anywhere. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you're still going to face that timeout, and the email is going to be saved somewhere magically. I don't know if this particular plugin that I'm using does any sort of saving and retries later. But I'll tell you this, a good MTA will. They will defer the message, they will retry the message, they will know if the user's inbox is full, and they will retry it in a few hours. Like, they handle all that stuff very, very, very gracefully and efficiently. But this, nope. Doesn't do anything. Best case scenario, again, timeout. Maybe it will requeue and try to send this email, using a background process or whatever. Other cases, maybe it'll just pop up an error message saying like, hey, this email could not be delivered. Like, what if I What if I do this? So the SMTP settings in here are set to what? smtp.mailgun.org, right? So let's try it out. Let's go to sail SSH. We'll want root. I'm gonna go in as root. I'm going to add, right? And I'm gonna say 127.0.0.1. This is smtp.mailgun.org. I'm just gonna do this. I might have to do it in the container, but we'll see. Yeah, there it is. It's waiting. The test email might have sent. Well, it might, but it didn't. And well, we can check. Right? So we can open a WP shell, and let's do it from the shell. Let's see what WP mail returns. WP mail. There it is, just waiting there. It says true. Honestly, oh no, it is here. Wait. It looks different though, but it is here. It's sent. Okay, so this is sent. I might have to do this in the container instead. So because this probably has, so it's not using the hosts. So 127.0.0.1 and settings, email test. Wait, settings. smtp mailgun.org. Could have also probably done it using a firewall rule. But let's try it again. Shell, WP mail, false. And yeah, it'll just probably say, okay, the heads up, the last email your site attempted to send was unsuccessful. SMTP connect failed. Please try running an email test or reading the latest error event. Debug events. Event number 1. So at least it's logging it. I don't know if it will retry. Probably won't retry. It just logs it as an error, which is good. So like the user can see that, okay, this the email is lost though. The email is lost. So there's no record of the email itself. Like there's no subject, no recipient address, no content, nothing. It's just lost. So if the SMTP server goes down for 5 seconds or an hour, and you have a big BuddyPress community site, and you have all these notifications for @ mentions and whatnot, and the SMTP server is down for an hour, you just lost an hour worth of notifications. And when the email service comes back up, at least this particular plugin, it's not going to try to resend them. It's not. But hey, you know what? These MTAs that have been around for decades, that have been built to be mail transfer agents, they do handle such failures very, very, very gracefully. They do handle all kinds of things. They will retry later. And if it's still down, they will retry again. They will keep retrying. Well, there is a limit of the number of retries, but they'll keep retrying as long as they can to deliver your mail. That's their job. That's not WordPress's job. WordPress is not meant to be an MTA. So what is the solution then? Well, you know, the SMTP plugin is obviously not a great, like it will work, but it will, you know, 20 emails in 35 seconds. This is not great. This is not good. This is actually really bad. So obviously this is not an option if you want to send large volumes of emails from your WordPress site. And I'm not saying specifically from the server itself, like using a full-blown Postfix or Exim or something else on the server and, you know, use that server to deliver the mail. No, that's not what I'm referring to. I'm just referring to relaying mail through an SMTP service like Mailgun. So clearly SMTP plugin doesn't really work here for, again, for large quantities. And I mean, 20 is not that large, so arguably it's not even anywhere near large quantities of emails, more like very small quantities of emails. So SMTP plugin is probably great when you want to send the occasional, you know, password recovery email, like once a week, or whatever the frequency of forgotten passwords is. SMTP plugin, great choice. But otherwise, you know, you'll need something a bit more serious than that. And let me try and demonstrate what Postfix does. So this is the, let me see if I can open them side by side, split right. Okay, just put this on the right. So this is what the plugin does, and this is what we should be doing, right? So WP mail is going to go to PHP mailer, and it's going to go to mail. So this is PHP's internal function called mail, and this is going to go to user sbin send mail. This is a binary, and this is a binary configurable send mail path. It's a PHP runtime configuration variable, and it just defines the, you know, where this binary is, and you know, a couple of flags to run it with. And so essentially this, which is the absolute default configuration on the system, it just does echo from to subject body. It might be dot terminate, I'm not sure, but it does it and pipes it to user sbin send mail with whatever the default arguments it. So this is what WP mail does. Can it do it in less than a second? We'll find out. Spoiler alert, it does do it in less than a second. But also it really depends on what exactly the sendmail binary does, the sendmail executable. And this really depends on what kind of setup you're running, right? So the most common setup is to just have a local postfix install. This is one of the most common setups. You have a local postfix install. So this is gonna run like a postfix queue manager, a postfix SMTP server, and a send mail. There's probably something else here related to like queuing and sending. But there's this send mail binary in Postfix, and sendmail is just the compatible name. There used to be a company called Sendmail, which was then like acquired a million times, but it used to be the de facto emailing standard across the entire internet. And Sendmail is now just, you know, a name used for compatibility. So Postfix's Sendmail accepts like all the same flags that a typical send mail would, if that makes any sense. But then it's free to do its own thing. And in this case, what the Postfix send mail does is a thing called post drop, right? And if you go to postfix post drop, the postfix post drop command creates a file in the mail drop directory and copies its standard input to the file, right? So essentially, let me try and write this in pseudocode, right? The user has been send mail in postfix does this, right? We're going to compare it to this. We're going to compare it to this. It's going to fopen path to email file. It's going to fwrite whatever we have to like as f. We're going to fwrite to f, and we're going to write whatever we have in standard input, and we're going to fclose the file. So in PHP terms, like if I were to write this in PHP language, this is like file put contents. I think it's path to path to email. And then how do you get std in PHP? I have to open a stream. Yeah, I was hoping I could write it in a simpler way, but you do have to open a stream. Anyway, so here is just like the email contents are going to be here. So this is a one-liner-ish in PHP. And these are the system calls. So fopen, fwrite, and fclose. Now, how much faster is this compared to this? And bear in mind that all of this has latency. Plus like all of this stuff plus latency. This is just writing to a local file system. Like if you have an SSD drive on your server, like this is instant. This is instant. But also this is simplified. Obviously it does a little bit more, like it actually inspects the standard input. It makes sure that the email is well formatted. It has a recipient address, and it has a content, it has a subject, and all of those necessary things. But ultimately this is what it does. And even if you go in your server and you do systemctl stop postfix service, if you just stop the postfix service, this will still work because it doesn't care about the queue manager. It doesn't care about the SMTP server. It doesn't care about any of this. It just writes files. It writes text files to the disk. That's it. It's that simple. So this is essentially the same as echo a file on disk. Just think about that compared to all of this, right? Let's try and actually get it up and running. So what I'm going to do is I am going to plugins. I'm not going to delete. I'm just going to deactivate it. Let's keep these here for now. It's still running. Profiler 18 milliseconds. Okay. Now in Sail we have a couple of default blueprints for Postfix. One of them is called postfix.yaml. So this just takes a few variables. Again, these are the exact same variables that we use to configure the SMTP plugin. So host, port, username, password, And then for WordPress, we have the from name and we have the from email. File get constants std in. Yeah, I don't know if std in works like that. You have to open a stream and actually read from stream, like with f. I don't know. I mean, it could. I don't know. It probably will work. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, so from email, from name, SMTP password. Yeah, and by the way, folks, if you have any questions, just feel free to drop them in Twitch or YouTube. I will probably notice them and respond. So SMTP port, username, from name, email, and all of these go into a Postfix configuration blueprint for sale. And when applying this blueprint, essentially what it does is it will install Postfix. It will create a configuration file for Postfix with all of these things. These two will, I'll show you a bit later when we do run this. It'll create a little WordPress plugin and use the WordPress WP mail filters to set the name and the email address for every outgoing email. And you know, that's about it. This is as simple as it gets for setting up an SMTP relay with sale. So it's sale blueprint. What is it called? Postfix.yaml. Postfix.yaml, and it'll ask you, like on the command line, it'll ask you for these variables, or you can, you know, put them on the CLI right here, like SMTP username, and so on. But we're not going to use Postfix here since we are working with Mailgun, and we recently worked together with Mailgun to create these blueprints specifically for Mailgun, which are very, very, very convenient to use, because we also have one for the DNS stuff that is required by Mailgun for domain verification. And I'll just go ahead and demo it all right here. I'm gonna delete this domain if I can. Yes, I can. Well, make sure that I'm deleting the correct one. Saledemo.com, delete. So to delete the domain, I can then go to my DigitalOcean network domains. I can delete the domain from here as well, just to make sure that we're starting with clean state. Now, if I do want to set up Mailgun for my sale application, what I do is sale. Well, first of all, I need to add the domain. So domain add saledemo.com. It's going to add the saledemo.com, the DNS zone for saledemo.com. So if we go here, go domains, we will see that the zone is here, along with the default A record pointing to my droplet. Now I'm going to run sale blueprint mailgun DNS.yaml, and it's going to ask me some questions. So domain name, saledemo.com. Actually, I think I need to create the domain here first. So add new domain, saledemo.com. Successfully created domain, saledemo.com. Now it wants me to validate the domain. So, okay, domain name, saledemo.com, DKIM record name. So it's this part, MX domain key. And the reason I have to specify this because it's always different. Sometimes you'll get an MX domain key, sometimes you'll get a MAILO domain key, sometimes you'll get something else domain key. So you know, sale has to know which host name you're working with. So record name is saledemo.com, MX domain key. And then DKIM record value, it's this big string, and it's going to apply the blueprint. And basically this blueprint just does a bunch of DNS records. And if you inspect, like, all of these are open source, so if you inspect the contents of the YAML file, here it is. It's using the DNS component for blueprints, and you're just adding a bunch of DNS records. So it's adding the SPF record for Mailgun, it's adding the KM name and value that you're providing, it's adding the MX records for Mailgun if they don't exist, because Mailgun can also look for incoming mail to your domain as well, which is really nice. So another MX record, and then a CNAME record is if you want analytics around, you know, whether people are clicking on your links in your email and things like that. You can use your own domain name for those kind of things and just CNAME it to mailgun.org. So this is what is needed. And then these are the variables. This is the stuff that I input on the in the interactive prompt in the terminal, or just on the command line as options. So this is Mailgun DNS. Blueprint applied successfully. And now, well, now we can go back to the Mailgun server and click verify. So now it's going to check these records and tell me that everything's looking good. And we can go get our SMTP credentials. And here we're going to run the mailgun.yaml. So the main, not the DNS blueprint, but the regular, the main Mailgun YAML file. And the Mailgun YAML file, again, if we inspect it, if we look at the contents of the YAML, it's really just Postfix. The configuration that we saw earlier with the generic Postfix, it does pre-fill some of the things, but other than that, is just gonna, you know, ask me for my Mailgun SMTP login. So it's postmaster@saildemo.com. Mailgun SMTP password. I'm gonna reset it. I'm gonna copy it. And I'm gonna paste it. Bam. From name, outgoing mail, sale demo. From email, hi@saildemo.com. Applying blueprint. And now what this is doing is it's actually installing the Postfix software on my DigitalOcean droplet, and is creating a configuration file with all of the stuff that I gave it. And it's doing that little WordPress plugin that I will show you in a bit. Let me go and see sale SSH root. Postfix. Yeah. Okay, it's installed. Configuring. Blueprint applied. Okay. So now we have a Postfix instance. It's actually inside the container, I think. To docker execute sale bash. So we are as root inside the container, and we can see here that Postfix is running. That which send mail. We have a send mail and version. Nope. Minus v. Nope. Nope. Man. Nope. Yeah, I don't know how to get help. Maybe help. Nope. Send mail usage options. Well, you can get help online if needed, but basically the binary is here. It is a Postfix binary. We can see that Postfix is running. There's the queue managers. There's the pickup routine. There's an SMTP server probably somewhere. Maybe it's not running because it's not sending any email, but it will in a bit. So that's Postfix. Let's also look at the let's do a dry run. Let's see what changed. Should be just one file. Yep. And well, I have a BP bp.yaml sail download dry run, so it should be just one file now, and I can sail download to download it. It's the one, so this is the file that the blueprint created, an MU plugin that the blueprint created for me based on the configuration options that I gave. And I set the from name to sail demo and the from email address to hi@saildemo.com. So it's just filtering these two in an MU plugin. Now let us first, I guess we can sail WP shell. Just do a WP mail test. Send myself a test email. It immediately returns true. As you can see, there's no delay here whatsoever. But we will do the performance test later. I just want to make sure that I configured everything correctly. I got an email from Mailgun saying that my domain is now verified, and I also got an email from Sail Demo. Let me just take a screenshot real quick so you folks can see it. There we go. This is the email from Postfix, essentially. Well, it's WP mail again. It's WP mail to PHP mailer to mail to then send mail, and then Postfix is just picking it up and delivering it to Mailgun as configured. So if we look at the email headers here, let me just do show original. Yeah, so it's right here, received from Postfix. Let me just copy all of it. I mean, there's nothing secret here. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it, because all of it would be too much. So here's the email to subject date from xmailer. So this is the email itself, and then all the other stuff is added by either Postfix or by Mailgun. Like all of the stuff up here is probably added by Mailgun, like the signatures and all of those things. And then this is us, received by. This is our server host name, sailed.io. Postfix from user ID 33, and user ID 33 is the www data user on the system. So Postfix then sent it to Mailgun, and everything looks good. Everything looks good. Now let's run this test, shall we? Let's do it. Mail test. Send mail test 1. Wait, what? (143 milliseconds). And I'm like half of it is not even the sending of the mail. So we can go to logs here and see that all of these 20 emails to myself have been queued or accepted. Some of them have already been delivered, but they're here. And this was instant. This was instant. 143, it probably ran like a cron somewhere, but if I refresh it again and queue another 20 emails, there we go. It's 100. It's 100 milliseconds. So this is 100 milliseconds to send 20 emails. 100 milliseconds. Can probably be faster as well, but it's so 100 by 20, it's like 5 milliseconds per email. I mean, I'm tempted to queue 1,000 emails. What I don't want is for those 1,000 emails to go. Actually, I don't mind, I guess. I guess I don't mind. Now let's queue 1,000 emails. Let's see what happens. Let's queue 1,000 emails. Deploy, sail deploy. Okay, and refresh this page again, and it's taking a little bit longer. I mean, it's a lot more emails, right? And we can probably inspect in, well, I was gonna look at the queue in sail SSH. -p, there it is. So 744 requests. So these are the emails currently in the queue. So these are the emails that haven't left our server yet. Like, they've been queued. They left WordPress. They're sitting there in a queue in Postfix waiting to be delivered. And if I run the queue again, there it is, 475. So half of them have already been delivered from Postfix to Mailgun. If I run again, 300, 258, 170, 50 emails. There, mail queue is empty. So now all of this 1,000 emails have left my server successfully, all of them. And if we go look into Mailgun, into overview, I think, processed 848. Well, there should be more. There should be like 1,002, I think, in total. 880. Let's go stats. Let's go for dashboard. There wasn't like a list somewhere. Email sent 6. Probably gonna be billed. We'll see. Okay, domains. There we are. Accepted. 942 emails were accepted, and 95% of those were delivered. I'll probably update in a bit. 950. Yeah, so Mailgun received these emails. Postfix sent these emails, and let's see how long it took. 14 seconds. So it's 14 ms to send 1,000 emails. So that's 1,000 division by, wait, it's 14 milliseconds per email. 14 milliseconds per email. Like the 100th, so it's not linear, which is fine. But what this means essentially is that you know, if you wanted to queue 10,000 emails in one go, which is much larger than a, you know, than a typical email blast, it'll take you less than 5 minutes. In here, queuing even 1,000 emails, like even if it takes only 1 second, because this takes more like 1.2 or 1.3, but even if it takes you only 1 full second to send one email, it's going to be 1,000 seconds. That's like 15 minutes. 15 minutes running a PHP script. Like, no host will usually allow that. And you also shouldn't be locking your PHP workers for you know, that ridiculous amount of time. And even here, there's room to optimize this for sure. Like, if you actually were working on like an email blast, you would probably chunk them into thousands, maybe 500 emails, and queue them using something like WP cron. Just to make sure that you're not holding a PHP request for, you know, for a minute or for 30 seconds. Just hold it for 5 seconds to queue, you know, 500 emails. So yeah, that's Postfix. Let's look at the Mailgun status here. 979. Yeah, so it's still processing them, and my Gmail is probably gonna be flooded. Oh yes, it is. I mean, I can show you a screenshot of what it's looking like, and Google groups them in hundreds. So here they are, slowly landing in my inbox. And I'm also pretty sure that Gmail is rate limiting the incoming mail from, like, if we go to the logs here, I'll probably see that some of them were like bounced or deferred. Yeah, there we are. Oops. Failed. The user you're trying to contact is receiving mail at a rate that 421 prevents additional messages from being delivered. Please resend at a later time. Yep. So yeah, I'm hitting the Gmail limit. But all of these failed messages, they will probably be retried later. I guess I don't know how I can stop. Will it stop if I just delete the domain? Like, can I clear the queue somehow? I'll clear domain queue. There we go. Okay. So, well, obviously some of them are probably not going to be delivered. They're going to be failed because we're hitting the rate limits for Gmail for sending so much email to one user. But when, like, in a real world scenario, you're not sending that much email to one specific user, so that's not going to be a problem. But either way, yeah, that kind of demonstrates the difference between, you know, doing this within a Smtp plugin and then doing this with Postfix SendMail. And again, this is a local Postfix install running on the same server. If you were working in a multiple server infrastructure, like where there is like 2 web servers, I would argue that installing Postfix on both of them, using the exact same thing, would be totally fine. Because again, this is just user has been SendMail is just writing files to disk, and whether they're written to disk on one server or the other, it doesn't really matter, because it's only going to be like WP mail is only going to be called once for that particular email, hopefully, and it's going to write the file once, and then whichever postfix, whichever web server that happens on, the postfix instance there, the queue manager will pick it up, and the SMTP server will send the email to the Mailgun service or whatever other backend you're using. And even if you have 100 servers, well, maybe not 100, but up to 5, I'd say it's fine doing SendMail locally on each one of them. I'm guessing that when it gets to more than 5, it might be trickier to manage, in which case what I would do, I think, is have not a local postfix install, but a postfix install. Like if we have a ton of servers, we're gonna do a postfix install in the same network. And essentially, we are going to have a penalty here. This is not going to be as efficient as this. This is not going to be as efficient as writing a file to disk. But again, comparing to this, what a postfix install in the same network, and this can be a cluster, by the way, it doesn't have to be one server. It can be multiple servers. They can be running on the same host name. It can be DNS load balanced for failover and whatnot, as long as it's in the same network. So we eliminate the latency factor, right? Because latency is a huge deal here. Like, I'd argue that this is not as expensive as the freaking latency between your server and Mailgun servers. I mean, we can probably check that, right? Ping mail SMTP. Well, I wonder why this didn't break, by the way. I guess Postfix has its own resolvers for SMTP. It probably does it once when it's initializing. It doesn't do it every time, which is why the hosts file didn't really work. Still bash it as well. And ping, I don't have ping here. Ping, ping this. Is it not pingable? It's not pingable. Pings mailgun.com, but I can't say for sure. Mailgun.com is also not pingable. I'm guessing they just block it on well, www, but this is CloudFront. This is a CDN service, so this doesn't really help much. Of course, they're going to have low latency to a CDN server. Anyway, so the latency here is a very big factor, for sure, 100%. And in a postfix install in the same network, if we have a cluster or even a single instance, what this then looks like is open a connection to a host in the same network. We don't need TLS, right? We can speak over insecure connections over a private network. So we eliminate the possibility of man in the middle and thus eliminate the need for securing a connection. I mean, you can still do TLS. It's again, this is not as big as this. So if you are running in like a I don't know, in an environment where maybe your neighbors in the same data center are hosted in the same private network, then obviously you would want to secure all communication between your hosts in the same network with TLS as well. But if you if you hand wired your service in your own network, and that private network is yours and only yours, then you can just drop the TLS here and not use it, and just communicate over port 25 with SMTP credentials. So authenticate with SMTP, send email, act SMTP, and close connection. So it is going to be slower than writing files to disk, but it's not going to be as slow as this. It's not going to be as slow as this. And then the way you solve this is, you're not going to use a plugin. You're not going to use a plugin. What you are going to use is the same sendmail binary, well, a different sendmail binary from you know, a simpler package, one that is made just to send emails over SMTP. I think it's called SMTP. I think it was MSMTP, the newer one, MSMTP. And MSMTP is an SMTP client. It's not a server, it's just a client. To use this program with your MUA, create a configuration file with your mail accounts and tell your MUA to call MSMTP instead of sendmail. I mean, you know, you can install MSMTP and just symlink user has been sendmail to user has been MSMTP or wherever it's installed. And that way you don't even have to change your PHP configuration, because MSMTP, their binary, is sendmail compatible interface. So the same command line options and exit codes. So PHP will just work fine with that. And MSMTP is basically going to do all this, or all this rather, over your private network. And again, you don't have to do it in WordPress. And MSMTP will gracefully handle any problems, any failures, because MSMTP is a mail transfer agent, not just an MUA. So this is how I would so Postfix, install, and then MSMTP to the Postfix relay on each web server. This, I think, is how I would solve the this email problem if I had a ton of servers. If I was working with you know, a very high traffic site which has a ton of web servers, then this is probably how I would solve it. You could probably you know, ask PHP Mailer to do SMTP to the Postfix relay in the same network. It would still be much faster than this, much faster, but it's going to be in PHP. And ultimately, I think you don't want that kind of stuff in PHP. I'd rather leave it to something that has been constructed and written and architected from the ground up to be a mail transfer agent, not a website. Okay, let's I think we covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover today on this stream. Again, just a quick recap. We have blueprints, Mailgun DNS for setting things up with Mailgun. If you're working with another SMTP provider, such as Gmail, smtp.com, Sendinblue, Mandrill, any of those other folks, you'll just use the generic Postfix YAML. You'll probably have to deal with the DNS stuff on your own with those providers, but it'll still work. And then the way you apply it is just, you know, sale blueprint and the name of the blueprint. Yeah, so on sale.io, in the knowledge base, there is an article on installing a Postfix SMTP relay. You will find like a pretty much an overview or explanation of how to do an SMTP relay with the Postfix YAML blueprint. Again, if you're doing it for Mailgun, don't bother with the Postfix YAML, just use the Mailgun YAML. It'll help you with DNS, it'll configure everything you need for sending with Mailgun. Just make sure you do add your domain name to your sale project first with domain add. And yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna drop some links in, I think I'm gonna drop them in the YouTube. I'll probably drop them in the Twitch chat as well, for things that you might be interested in. So the WP mail post, this is quite technical, about basically SMTP and the problems and the solutions and some benchmarks of different hosts. Like if you want to read that and get a bit more information than I overviewed today, it's on my blog. Here's the link, and here's the link. Oops, never mind. And then for the knowledge base, this is the knowledge base for Postfix. What else? Oh, there's a Mailgun article as well. Configuring Mailgun. This stuff is a step-by-step guide for Mailgun using the exact blueprints that I discussed today. So nothing new really, but like if you want to revisit it, should be pretty simple. And of course, sale.io, the main project page for Sale, which, if you're still unfamiliar with this, it is an open source and free CLI tool to deploy, to provision, and manage WordPress applications on DigitalOcean. So it allows you to create new servers, work with domain names, request SSL certificates, deploy, backup, rollback, all that kind of stuff. Super interesting. I'm gonna drop the link for the GitHub page for Sale as well. If you do like it, make sure you star it on GitHub. That helps a lot with, I don't know, I don't really think that helps much, but we like the stars, so bring them on. But basically you will find a lot of the information that you will need to work with Sale, starting from installing it, configuring it, what it is not. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be on for a couple more minutes, and just drop them in chat on YouTube or on Twitch. I'll be happy to answer. Other than that, I'm just gonna play some royalty-free music for you. And thanks for joining the stream. If you do come up with any questions, later about email or sale in general or WordPress in general, feel free to reach out to me either via email or you can leave a comment on YouTube. I'll get a notification on that. You can find me on Slack or Twitter or Facebook or any of those other things. Again, thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy your the rest of your day today. Why can't I find the music? epidemicsound.com. And yeah, let's go for some I don't know, happy music, I guess, again. Oh well, we did happy last time, so let's go for relaxing.